everyone, and welcome to By Any Methods Necessary. I'm Will Schick, Director of Product Development for Atomic Mass Games, and I'm joined with my fantastic crewmates here. And go ahead and introduce yourselves. Let's start with Marco.
I'm Marco Segovia, the sculpting director here of Atomic Mass Games.
And Preston.
I am Preston Stone. I am an art director in charge of all things Star Wars here at Atomic Mass.
And one Will Pagani. So we're excited to spend top of day three with you all today. We've got a whole lot to talk about. We've got 90 minutes to do it. Our goal here is to talk about upcoming releases, to talk a bit more in depth about the awesome video that you saw on day one of Ministravaganza. We're going to dive into a bit of that content. If you watched the battle between Pagani and Plumber yesterday, you did get to see some of the new stuff in action. So we're going to be covering those as well as some brand new stuff that's coming to the game. We're going to talk a little bit about what to expect from the points and balance adjustments that are going to be coming up here in the next several weeks. And then we're going to dive into the future and what you can expect to see from us now that we've taken full control and the helm of Star Wars Legion. So with that, let's just dive right in. This is definitely the first. This is the first stuff that we want to talk about, which is the kind of the end wave of the Battle of Kashyyyk kind of themed releases, which were started under Fantasy Flight Games and are now in our stewardship to take to release. So everything we're going to show here was done by the amazing development team at Fantasy Flight Games. Preston is a great voice who was working on these things before. And we're just going to take the chance to show some rules, some artwork, talk a little bit about the design process that went behind those, and we'll move forward from there. So with that, I think we have a couple of art assets to go.
That we do.
Yeah, this is art by the wonderful J.B. Cascop, and shows off the ISP and one of its alternate weapon upgrades. This is the missile pod. We actually have an interesting thing to show you. If we can go to the next thing. Can we show off the concept art?
I think we have the concept art after the actual stat card.
I'll talk about it later.
So we've shown this a few times on different social media posts and stuff. I know BK has been kind of teasing this. It's time really now to take a look at the rules, and then we'll talk a little bit about one of the things that makes this such a fun vehicle for Legion, which is you'll see that the only weapon it holds is DC-15 blaster rifles. And that's because which weapons you equip through the upgrades really make a huge difference in terms of what the infantry support platform is trying to do. So Pagani, why don't you walk us through some of the highlights of this New Republic Heavy?
Well, I will do that if my mic is working, but
I can hear you. Tony gives a thumb up that you can. I think the
everybody
chat
can hear me.
I can hear you, man.
Might say so.
Chat, how we doing?
We're good. We've got the thumbs up.
Brilliant. Fantastic. All right, so we've got the infantry support platform here. This is a zippy little guy. At speed 3, it's got hover ground, so it can move over terrain and things like that very, very easily. Armor 3 makes it really durable, especially compared to like a bark speeder. And then it's got this great slew of weapons that we're going to talk about here in a moment. But I'm a big fan of this guy for getting around the table, pushing positions, and really being very maneuverable. It is my favorite part of the infantry support platform here.
And
yeah,
and so now I think we're ready to look at the concepts. Again, like we talked about, what really defines this vehicle are the weapons. And Preston, there's some really awesome stories behind how several of these upgrades came into being.
Yeah, so I wanted to highlight the missile pod. We saw the art of it earlier. This is the final version that we ended up with, but we had several before that. We were trying to establish, what does this thing look like? What do we want the other upgrade to look like that we were creating? So we had a bunch of different options. I think the through line to all of these is that they were way too bulky for the ship. So, we imagined them like on this craft, and it wasn't working out. It was really cool. Some of these were inspired by real world designs, some of them from other Star Wars things. Ultimately, we're aiming for, does it feel like it belongs in Star Wars? And then we had to work with the licensor to establish, like, yeah, this really does look like something that comes from Star Wars. So we ended up with the one that we see. It's a little bit sleeker. It has that boxier feel. We ended up with, I think, a pretty cool design. Feels right for the ISP.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the missile pods specifically are a brand new design. Like they didn't exist
Oh,
in
yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah,
So that was from the ground up, right?
That and there is a beam weapon as well that we designed from the ground up. We did the concept art for it, and we were just aiming for something that really felt like it belonged in Star Wars and felt like other designs that we had seen before, firing missiles. So yeah.
Nice. All right, well, let's take a look at how that concept art and the sculpting work behind it translated into the game rules. I think we have several of the upgrade cards that come with it. You'll see the first one, you can upgrade to 327 Star Corps Elite Armor Pilots. This just makes fire support a little more spicy.
Yeah, fire support is a big part of the Republic Army, and being able to use it with the vehicles and things like that is great, and this just makes it even better. It shows the sort of elite training of these pilots working with their regular troopers. So I'm a big fan of that one. And then the twin blaster cannons use a concept where you can sort of split your dice pool into two and then use Gunslinger to attack two different targets, which you will see as a common theme on this vehicle. And I think that's just a really great concept. It allows it to be very flexible. I talked about how I liked this vehicle being able to like flank and get into positions that other things couldn't normally. And I think this kind of upgrade is great for just showing, like, do you need one large dice pool? Do you need two smaller dice pools? Like, you can really do a lot of different things with this. So it's a very versatile vehicle.
Yeah. And so if we jump to the next ones, Preston did mention that these two were designed from the ground up, from concepting on. The twin beam cannons, I have a feel, Preston, were very much inspired by what we see on the LAT transport ships in Episode 2.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we looked a lot to the LAT, that little disc that comes out the front of the pods that the gunners sit in. Yeah, this was heavily inspired by that, and in fact, I would say one of the reasons we showed off the missile pods is like there was no question what we were going to do with the twin beams. It was really about adjusting the size. So.
Excellent. And yeah, once again, these two upgrades here give you a lot of versatility in how you want to use your dice pools and things. So it's just a very versatile vehicle, very fast, very pick your option, basically. So
yeah, it certainly fills that role of infantry support platform because you do kit it out for whatever you need. Do you need armor busting? Do you want to be able to do some high volume of fire? Do you want to like go for the gusto and hit those beam cannons and maybe decimate an entire flank if you can get really lucky? Yeah, and I mean, running multiples is always exciting. So, fantastic. Next up, I believe we've got some art for the Persuader Tank.
Yeah, this is Francisco Miara, and the cool thing about this piece of art that he did was we never see a factory specifically for the Persuader. We do see it for B1s, I think B2s, several different separatist droids. So what we did for this, we wanted to show the factory for the Persuader, and we pulled from all these different scenes that we see throughout Star Wars of droids being assembled, and so it has that aesthetic. It feels appropriate for droid assembly, and so we get a glimpse at what that must be like for the Persuader.
Yeah, I think
I really
you
love
just
the mood here.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The like red underlighting is great. Like the blue fog and smoke. Just
yeah,
so
Francisco did an awesome job, not only imagining a scene, but also adding to the atmosphere, just the feeling that all this like heavy like soot is coming up while all these droids are being assembled, and it really adds to that sense of depth.
The composition, that perspective.
Yeah, and it's a really
scale.
creative use of color, like you mentioned. You know, in a real world scene, you might not get that much color, but he found ways to punch it up and still make it feel like it wasn't overly saturated. It feels real.
Sinister. It's still got that evil vibe. You know you're not supposed to be there.
I'm not here for the real world. I'm here for this.
That's right.
I'm excited.
All right, well, let's take a look at what this tank actually does in the game after seeing that amazing piece of art. So walk us through this brand new option for the CIS, Pagani.
Yeah, so the Persuader class tank here is another chunky boy. It's got armor, so it's very durable against non-impact weapons. It does have programmed, and we've seen this before on the spider droids, but I do not believe we've shown all the program cards, and Plumber was playing with one of the new ones yesterday, but I don't think anybody quite picked up on it.
They did. There were a lot of questions about if he was doing AI wrong, even after the sticky
spider
note.
tank. The spider droids were using a different AI than the ones that we have shown previously. And then, of course, this is an open transport, so you can ride around with some B1s on your pontoons. And then this guy brings some chunky dice pools to this as well, especially with his upgrades. He gets some of the same upgrades as the other CIS tank. So, yeah.
All right. What do we have next for? I think we have the AI cards next, right? So
Yeah.
Preston, talk about, this is the one I believe that BK has shown. So this was the first one, but this is great. Walk us through the art for this.
This is a really interesting piece because we haven't really done anything like an abstract concept in Legion before. Most of what we show is an actual scene. So Andreas Zafaratos did a really good job of all these. We did a set of 3. One's aggression, defensiveness, and for speed. And he did a really good job like showing like little. It feels like something that's inside the mind of a droid, and also shows off a little bit of what that might feel like, might look like, just visually. The defensive one is kind of more blocky. It's sort of indicating like plates of armor, and we can look at the other ones in the cards and maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and just take a quick review of the rules for defense protocols.
Yeah, it gives you AI dodge. So if you remember your AI, you get a dodge token. And then you also pick up nimble and outmaneuver. So you become very difficult to damage, basically. And I, for one, am here for the nimble Persuader Tank. So I'm excited by that option. And then we do have a couple other AI cards to show here. Which will have some newer art. Engagement protocols was the one that Plumber was using yesterday. And then we also have attack protocols for AI aim and precise 2, which can make you very deadly. Lots of rerolls coming out of attack protocols. And then engagement protocols really lets you stay flexible. And remember, you are required to take one of these AI cards.
And if I could make a comment just about the art on these 2, the engagement protocols, again, meant to be quick, and we nodded to the hyperspeed like in space for Star Wars, but it's just meant to feel like it has those movement lines, while the attack protocols is just hyper aggressive and just feels like it's angry. Even has like the little eyebrow places.
I love it.
It's really great.
You knocked these out of the park.
Like they're deceivingly simple, but like actually a very complex concept to visualize in 2D.
Fantastic. So that is going to wrap us up on the Persuader Tank and the infantry support platform. So why don't we jump in to the promo video that we showed?
I think it's time. So again, these are the last bit of the Kashyyyk wave, which all the development for these, all the artwork and everything was done before we had really taken over. So our big steps here were just getting them to print, getting them across those final production finish lines. The mercenary stuff that we're going to talk about next, which we pull our title from, that was kind of it's in between. So much of the sculpting and a lot of the visual design had kind of begun initially before the merger, and we were stepping into the process kind of in the midstream and walking it through the rest of the stuff. So it was a fun and interesting transition. I think I'm really proud of kind of how this whole release wave represents that changing over and is kind of our initial step into becoming a brand new AMG with the team and everything else that went on with it. So let's just talk a little bit first about that fantastic artwork that we've seen.
Yeah, so we wanted to show a big scene off of the whole Shadow Collective, and we're going to look at a few sketches by Alex Kim. This one we didn't end up going with. The angle looking upward with Maul looking out made him look like a hero. It looked very heroic. So that wasn't the vibe we were going for. We can go on to the next one. Yeah, so we were getting a little bit closer with this feel, but it didn't feel like a fully cohesive team. And we wanted that feeling of like fielding a team of characters. And this is actually pretty close to what we ended up going with. The only issue here was, again, we had some of the characters kind of not well represented. Like Maul is supposed to be the central focus, but there was a better way to bring all the characters into the center. I like the tilted horizon. And then I think the other thing that we wanted to address was like how massive the army felt. It really, like the Shadow Collective is not that massive, and so we wanted to bring the feeling down of having it be a smaller army or a smaller group. Yeah, and this is just a slightly more finished version of what we saw in that first one. It was cool. I think I asked Alex to go ahead and just render it like the others, so we had a clearer idea of what we were looking at. But again, a little bit too heroic, and we ended up shying away from this. This is really dramatic and cool, though. And then this is the final piece we ended up with. Just a really, really cool look. Added a lot of atmosphere. Less actiony than we see in the core sets, but I think it has a nice dramatic feel to it with Maul walking up with that dark saber, like he's in charge now, and so yeah, great piece.
Yeah, super fantastic. And of course, as people have kind of been talking about in the chat, this piece of art was not only important just to get the feel for the Mercenaries and the Shadow Collective in general, but also is being used on the product that's going to introduce the Shadow Collective and everything we're going to talk about here in a second to Legion, which is the Shadow Collective starter box. So you're going to see this. It's going to be a great way if you want to jump in full on into the mercenary life with Shadow Collective. You're going to be able to get all of the miniatures to start your collection, and then you can build out appropriately from there. And this is going to be a new direction that we're going to talk about more as we talk about future stuff and everything. But just a fantastic piece to pull everything together. So specifically, let's talk a little bit about the game mechanics of the Mercenaries. And one of the big things that I want to highlight before Pagani kind of takes us through some of this stuff, and we talk about the sculpts and everything that go along with it, is that I mentioned that this was kind of we took over stewardship of this product in the middle of the design phase. And originally, the concept was to create a full-fledged, standalone new faction for the game. But in our discussions with LFL and looking at Legion in general, one of the things that we hit on was the idea of mercenaries in Legion and opening up these characters that we see working for coin or for nefarious purposes or things to a wider group. And what would that do to the game, and what options would that open for players to tell their own narratives within the Star Wars galaxies and all that. And so we transitioned that original idea, that concept of a cohesive, like locked-in faction, like a standard faction, and instead began really exploring the mercenary concepts. And it was very exciting to do. It was well received by LFL. They were very much behind the idea that this really expands the narrative that players can tell with their Legion forces and all that stuff. So from that initial genesis and the work that was done, we were able to really transform it into something that I think is very exciting for the future of Legion, and just makes it feel much more enmeshed and tied into the Star Wars galaxy and the narratives that we see played out, and that we can now, what if on our own tabletops and play out as well. So with all of this said, I think we have the sculpts ready, and Marco, you and your team were instrumental in taking the finished sculpts from the sculptors and pushing them across the finish line from an engineering standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Corey, Bexley, the team, they did an amazing job, like making sure that these were all modular. That's the part of the challenges that we face when we're dealing with something like with a material like hard plastic for these miniatures, is that it's not like a skirmish game where you have just one or two characters and you just, you part them. Like this is a war game where you have a unit and you have interchangeable parts that are modular, and so you have to make sure that whatever pose they're in, they can plug into to make another pose, another character, another weapon, another option, and that's where they really excelled and highlight really how different lines can be in between, even within a studio. It could be apples to oranges on how those processes are, and at the end of the day, I think the product sells on its own merit.
And one of the big things about this unit, you'll notice that there's the really proud looking noble there, a falling noble, and this is a product in a unit set where you do get kind of like the Wookiee warriors. You do get the core unit, and then you also get the option to either have a commander, which, as we'll talk about the game mechanics, can be kind of important based on how you want to build your force and how much control you want over it.
Very relevant.
Or you can use that commander as a personnel upgrade. And I believe that there are a couple of options when it comes to the head stylings, the hair stylings, the fin stylings, if you will, on that character.
I mean, it gives life to these characters, given that, for the most part, we always know these syndicates from the Hutts, and it's great that we get to explore what the shows have explored, and we've seen them in other various media, and so it's awesome that we get to give our community just the ability to customize their miniatures in this way.
And I know the next one, the next sculpts we're going to show, these made Michael Plummer, one of our game developers, squee with joy because he only cares about Mandalorians if he can do it.
Of course he does.
And so we have the Mandalorian Super Commandos. And just talk us through a little bit about the sculpts on these. Preston, I know you did some work on the concepting for the poses and stuff, so if you have anything to add to any of this stuff and the process that was there when these were being sculpted, please do.
This whole batch of characters, we were really just trying to push our poses to a little bit more of an actiony feel. I think there was something special about the Mandalorian Super Commandos, and just they needed to feel awesome and epic. I mean, this guy like double pistols out, flying backwards. You see that in the Clone Wars. We wanted to bring that into the mini. You'll even see it in one of our art pieces. So yeah.
This is a classic pose, the Mandalorian pose. You see it, and it's just that's cool to see it on the table too. And also, it just really brought a challenge to the team as well, right? To get a flying pose that will also, like I said before, that is modular with other pieces that are flying, and you swap them out and making sure that they fit properly and they're easy to put together, and also still be in line with to give a dynamic pose to these characters.
Yeah, and I think everything came together to make a really great. They look like exactly like we see in season 7 and from the Clone Wars when they're the entourage of Maul. And these are definitely the specific retinue that Maul has around him when he's really Mandalorian, the Shadow Collective, and super fun to play with on the table as well. And then I believe that we are on to the Pike Syndicate next. Is that right, Pagani? You have the list.
No, we are on to the Maul render.
Oh, the Maul, yes.
We'll get into the Pike stuff when we
this
talk
makes
about
sense.
Specific
So eagle-eyed observers will notice that this is not the Maul that they saw in the video.
No, it is not.
And there's an important reason for that, because you can build Maul one of two ways. So you can absolutely do him with the Darksaber and the single Sith Saber, or you can have him with his standard and classic double-bladed saber. And I don't want to spoil too much because there's BK has a lot of exciting things planned for everything. But if you're a stickler, how you equip him in terms of which weapon loadout you give him does actually change his role in the game. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah, that's how far we'll go. But talk a little bit about that, because you did have to, again, this is another one where it's like same pose. And I know, Preston, you had a hand in concepting this as well. But same pose, but very different feel once you load him out in different ways. So
yeah, and I mean, I definitely at least took advantage when we were 3D prototyping him to give him both the Darksaber and the double-bladed, because he
got it.
I mean, give him all the weapon, and it looks cool. So I wanted to see that. Yeah. And you do have that option when you do get this miniature, but yeah, definitely, Preston. Especially when we were adjusting these poses and going back and forth with this, for you guys on your end in the art, what really was the inspiration to put Maul as a charging figure versus the intimidation pose that he usually exhibited?
You know, he does a lot of actiony stuff in season 7. A lot of fighting. I think that it's that aggressive part of his character, and we had already done the more statuesque Maul. So this basically gives a player an option to do something more fun and more interesting. You know, do something different. So you can do either Maul now. A really cool detail on this one that I liked personally was the Mandalorian. The throne room has all these cool stained glass pieces, and you know, things are just destroyed at the end of season 7, and we wanted to show like a little chunk of this stained glass on the ground that he's leaping off of. So we wanted to imagine him fighting Ahsoka basically in this arc, or in this mini. So
that's such a good scene.
Yeah, I'm really happy with this mini. Very excited to paint this up as maybe my second attempt at a paint job.
Yeah, and like Corey, he went, put in so much work in to make sure that Maul face came through again, even better, with a sharper expression, more detail, and as well as like making sure it was in line with what the character looked like, and also in line with the Legion style. And so definitely it was a huge undertaking and many iterations, but ultimately we got there, and it looked great.
Cool. All right, well, I think now we're on to the stars of yesterday's battle report. Maybe, I don't know. Darth Vader also got quite a bit of, and we're going to talk about that too, I promise.
Yes.
But the very first game played with Mercenaries included in the Army selection and construction was with these Pike Syndicate foot soldiers, and they were played in the CIS Army that Plummer played with, and I've made sure that he took his AI sticky note with him if you were watching that game, so he's now required at every game he plays with droids to have that with him.
Maybe even without droids, who knows?
Maybe, yeah, we're just going to make sure it's always there. We're just going to slap it on him. Preston, tell us about this art.
So I never skip an opportunity to show off Darren Tan art. He's just one of our greatest artists. A joy to work with. And like so many of the artists in this set, like finds a way to more realistically depict what we see in the Clone Wars. And we got several great examples of that with the Pike and the Black Sun in this grouping of products in particular. And we had a cool opportunity that the pistol they're holding we'll show a little bit later. We also did some concept art with that.
All right, well, shall we take a look at the actual rules cards for these fine mercenaries?
No, I think we need to look at the miniatures.
Oh yeah, we do.
Ooh.
Sorry, I'm cutting you off.
How dare you.
You get so excited.
I like
so
how
excited.
I'm out.
It's going to look really weird because we keep talking to each other because we're in the same room,
next
but
to
we're
each other.
completely separated here. I'm sure that Alyssa, one of the great people that's been working with us to make this event go great, is just screaming at her screen right now.
Stop looking.
Stop looking at each other.
Stop it.
They don't know you're in the same room, but we are. See, I can put my hand over here.
The immersion chick, it's ruined. It's ruined.
But unfortunately, Preston's not here, so.
Okay, so let's talk about the sculpts.
the sculpts, the Pike Syndicate, again, like, this was to show off another syndicate to expand on the world of Star Wars, which is super exciting because we've seen them in other media, as I said. And then it's also daunting given that we've seen them also, like, in live action, if we remember in the Han Solo film, like, getting the right details, making sure that we can compromise on the style that can be workable within our production line and our production process, and also fit in our war game and the Legion style. And definitely, I think our team knocked it out of the park in making sure that these poses are dynamic, they give options, and they're swappable and easy to put together, and just a joy to paint.
I think that whip pose is like one of my favorite poses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so good.
I just the weight of it is fantastic.
Yeah,
I
and
also love the capo. He's like plotting, and he's like, "Go, my minions."
Oh, steepled fingers are the best fingers all the time. And if you missed Dallas painting these on day 1 of Ministravaganza and you want to see the actual sculpts and what they look like and see his fantastic paint job and watch his process, that video is still up, so you can go view it on Twitch. It'll go up on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, out of everything in this wave, these are the ones that I can't wait to paint a million of because they're just so weird and cool that like I'm just imagining an entire like swarm of these like strange pike alien foot soldiers just running at you. And Baton Guy is there. He's there for business.
Yeah, I mean these guys are hardcore. Like they're the ones who assassinated Cypher Diaz. Like they have history.
They're ready to go. And the rifle. So you have 2 heavy weapon options in this. You have the whip, you have the rifle, and as Preston mentioned, the rifle is actually a brand new design, and I think we have concept art of that.
Yeah. So we only see ever that little pistol that they're holding. You can see that off to the right side. And we wanted a heavier option. So this is just a look at sort of our process of making a new weapon. And again, this is our own design. Obviously, we're taking from those little design elements that we see on their normal blaster. We have those little pad trigger things. We thought that was really important since their hands are what they are. And we just wanted something really cool. The final design has more of this figure 8 thing going on in it, just to make it feel a little bit more alien. We like that aspect of it, so we were really pushing the geometry of this to fit into something that felt like their blaster, but also felt unique and felt a little bit alien and not like a normal blaster that anyone could have.
Just uniquely designed the physiology of like the race, right?
And the shapes that they're playing with that fits the contours to their hand and not one that you see conventionally.
Yeah, I love it. I think, again, such great work and just very cool that, you get the opportunity to add to the Star Wars galaxy and really explore into the nooks and crannies in between the panels that aren't there. For sure. And I think you did a fantastic job on this stuff.
Absolutely.
So, okay, I think now I can stop teasing people and we can show them the card maybe. I'm trying, people. I'm trying, but they're keeping
like,
me
move
to the
it
schedule.
along.
I know.
There it is.
I know, they're doing really good. You will notice that due to Imperial ISB sources, there's a bit of a redacted square on here. So we're not going to tell you yet everybody that the Mercenaries can work for. We're going to save some secrets. A studio's got to keep some secrets just for the fun and the future. But
and no point costs.
And no point costs. That's true.
Because
those are
we're
also
very mean.
Redacted. Yes. But that said, so this is the unit that Plumber was using yesterday in the CIS. Talk about the mechanics a little bit. My favorite one, obviously, that I think we'll spend the most time on is Independent, but walk us through this, Pagani.
So the Imperial Redacted box caught a little bit of Danger Sense up in the corner of this guy here, but that is Danger Sense 2, and they have outmaneuvers, so they can, of course, spin dodges to cancel critical results. They have self-preservation, because they're not really interested in dying today. They're more here for the money, so they're just like, piece them out if they get a bunch of suppression. And they have Independent Dodge, and Independent Dodge is really exciting Independent is a keyword that's going to show up a lot in these mercenary units. And sort of the theme of the Mercenaries, right, is they're here to work for you, but they're not necessarily going to do exactly what you tell them. So most commanders cannot issue orders to mercenary units unless they have an upgrade card, which we talked about that Plumber had yesterday, that gives you Allies of Convenience. Oh, that might be the keyword that it gives you. Anyways, the upgrade is, it's Underworld Connections is the upgrade card. And it gives you the keyword Allies of Convenience, which lets you issue orders to mercenary units as a normal commander, or of course you can take the Capos or the other different various mercenary commanders which can order around their own troops. There are different affiliations of mercenaries. So there's Pike, there's Black Sun, there may be more. And they can only issue orders to their own factions, mini-factions, affiliations. So if you want to play Black Suns, you need a Black Sun Capo. If you want to issue orders, if you want to play Pikes, you need the Pikes. But this Independent is really cool because normally if you take this unit, you can't give them orders. So that is unfortunate, but Independent gives you that benefit. And then, of course, they use dodges a little bit better than other normal units because of outmaneuver. So I really like that sort of playing with you can't do this, but maybe you don't want to, that kind of thing going on. And that's, I don't know, I think that's a really cool design and a really great direction to take these things.
Yeah, it was very fun, and I think a really great way to, like you mentioned, showcase the fact that these are hired, right? Mercenaries are hired. They're not there. They're not part of the organization or the structure. So even when Darth Vader's yelling at you to do something, you might not do it. I mean, you're a fool, but you might not do it. Like there's pride on the line here, so we're going to keep that. And as you mentioned too, Pagani, like along with which factions they work for, which is redacted. There's also an icon which attaches them to a specific group or affiliation. So, for example, the Pikes all share a certain icon, and the Capo, as a commander, can only issue orders to members of his affiliation. So he can't go around ordering Black Suns, even if they're on the same table or in the same army.
And we will see that symbol here in a moment when we look at the Capo card in a couple slides here. So you'll get a glimpse.
So all of this stuff it adds a whole new layer to army construction and building, maximizing these different options, and it makes for a really fun and a very thematic sense that when you play with mercenaries, you're playing with mercenaries. So let's jump to, I think the Capo card is next, or do we have? We have the actual unit upgrades here for the heavies. So we talked a little bit about the rifle, and this is the rifle in all of its artistic glory. So Preston, if you want to walk us through some of the art choices here, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think some of the main things were the raised shoulder, the weird grip. I said that it had like a weird kind of figure eight thing. Can't see it very well from this angle, but obviously it ended up with the two pads for their fingers. And then we pushed the scope forward just because it felt appropriate for the character's head, and also felt weird. And if you've ever looked at a Star Wars blaster, the scope placement always just feels a little bit weird. And it's great. It makes it wonderful. Like that's the aesthetic. So this just fit,
Yeah, then we've got the Electro Web Soldier as well. It's got immobilize and suppressive. So you can really kind of tailor this unit to be what you need it to be. Do you want it to be sort of a more ranged unit? You can take the Disruptor Soldier. You want it to be sort of a more Shock Trooper style unit? You can take an Electro Web Soldier.
I should mention both these art pieces by Ministravaganza.
Okay, so now I think we're ready for the Capo card.
Now it is Capo time.
It's not ready for Capo card, because now we're on this. So this is the personnel upgrades. You can see that you can take the Capo as a personnel upgrade. He also has a new... Oh, no, we're just going. Like, day 3, like, it doesn't matter. No, we're all good.
So this is the stat card for the Pike Syndicate Capo, which, spoiler alert, you can also take as a personnel upgrade in a unit. The redacted box, once again, clipping into our text a tiny bit here, that is the rule called aid, and then it has the Pike Syndicate symbol that we talked about just a tiny bit earlier. So he can aid Pike Syndicate units to give that benefit here. He can pass on his tokens, essentially. He's got Danger Sense, once again. He's not here to die today. He's here to hide and live, and no money is worth your life. And then he has independent dodge, just like his normal unit. So.
Okay.
Now
we'll come here to just like with the Black Suns unit that we looked at earlier, you can take the leader, so the Vigo for the Black Suns or the Capo for the Pike Syndicate, as a commander option, or you can attach them as a personnel option through this upgrade card, and gain some pretty solid benefits if you do so for both the Capo and the Vigo. And we can see the Capo here. So Pagani, if you want to kind of like walk through, and there is a new, there's the cache. I was going to say cache, which would have just made me sound stupid, and then I said it anyway.
Here we are.
Here we are. Look, here's my hand. Focus on that.
We'll edit in post.
I really wish if I reached down, my arm would go in front of Pagani's hand, and then everyone would be like, "Are they Hollywood Squaresing it? What's happening right now?" Yeah, there you go.
God.
There you go. Okay,
Kevin,
so anyway.
now's your time. Kevin says no.
Kevin's no fun.
Yeah, so I like the idea of the Pike Syndicate Foot Soldier not just being an extra guy, right? Like it actually gives you something like a benefit for just it's more than just another dude in the unit, right? It gives you that cash aim. which kind of gives you a name token that you can use later whenever you kind of need it. And I think that's a really cool idea. And you're going to see a lot more cash coming up in a lot of these mercenary units. And then, of course, the capo gives them independent surge. So if you just want to take one unit of pikes and you're not really interested in issuing them orders, you can stick the capo in there for a much lower point cost than taking them as a commander, or maybe you're using all your commander slots. And you can pick up that independent surge, which just makes the unit operate a little bit better without orders. So I like the sort of flexibility these two things bring.
The chat is asking if you can use both independent options, Pagani. Do you want to comment on that?
Yes.
I'm not. Are you commenting, or is that the answer?
I mean, yes, you can use both. Oh, good point. Yes, I would like to comment, and yes, you can. It is not a choose one. So.
Perfect. It's been a long couple of days, and we have so much more content to go. It's going to be amazing. I don't know what's next. You have the actual list. I don't know why I keep introducing
You keep jumping
things.
ahead, keeping like, and now this.
I know, it's because I'm excited.
And it's not that. So let's talk a little bit about, I guess we talked a little bit about how the mercenaries function in other armies. Let's talk a little bit how they function by themselves. And this is going to get us into a concept called battle forces. And this is sort of the bridge into the future of Star Wars Legion for where we are going. And battle forces are a concept that is ways for players to build armies and build things that do not follow normal army construction rules. So there is a battle force called the Shadow Collective that allows you to play with all of these mercenary options, with the Pikes, with the Black Sun, with the Mandalorian Super Commandos, with Maul. And there are a couple things that have not been spoiled yet.
More secrets.
That are included here as well. And what this battle force does is it gives you a force organization chart that is not necessarily the same as the normal force organization chart. And then it gives you some options that you couldn't normally take. So, for example, I guess I don't know how spoilery we're getting here, Shik.
I'll do it. Are you afraid? I can do it. I can do it right now. So, for example, the Shadow Collective battle force gives you access to Maul, who is not allowed in any other army by the mercenary tag, because he doesn't have a faction icon that goes along with him. And it also allows you to take Mandalorian Super Commandos, which are specifically attached to very specifically the Shadow Collective within the story and the way in which they're portrayed in this iteration of them. So if you take the Shadow Collective, you'll gain access to a bunch of different units, and you will gain access to units that are specific to that. Now, that may not always be the case for a battle force, and Pagani can tell you the other benefit that some battle forces have as well.
Yes, some battle forces also have the benefit of special command cards that can only be used in that battle force. They're usually tied thematically to whatever the battle that thematic battle force is tied to. And the first two battle forces, the first two after, which they're not the first two. The first one is the Shadow Collective. The next two, there we go, are themed around the invasion of Hoth. So we will have the Echo Base Defenders and Blizzard Force, I believe they're called, Shik. Can I say that on camera?
Yeah, you did. So that's where we're at now.
It's too late now.
I know.
Yep. So we're all the way through on that one. And those two will receive special command cards that can only be used in those battle forces.
And we might as well say following that, and you're going to see all this stuff coming out next year towards the middle of the year, so quarter 3, quarter 4, depending on how the pandemic and timelines work. As we've talked about before, a lot of this stuff, even for us, is in flux because the state of the world and the state of shipping and container shortages and everything is all over the place. So we're going to make sure to do our best to get everything out as soon as we possibly can. But a lot of it currently, sadly, is outside of our control, and the best we can do is offer all of our supplications and prayers to the folks who are dealing with the shipping and logistical nightmares of the current situation. But so, as Pagani mentioned, the Rebel and the Imperial ones will be first. You'll be seeing some really cool products that are going to be starter products for that. So just like with the Shadow Collective, there's going to be an opportunity for brand new players to jump into the game utilizing these smaller subset forces, or if you want to jump over from a faction because you find something really thematic and cool. We really want to add more opportunities for people to get into the game. As we've talked about before, and Simone mentioned in her fantastic opening ceremonies discussion, our goal is not just to see these games survive, but we want them to thrive. I want to retire and hand these amazing games over to the next group of developers and people who are going to work on it. And so we're very focused on not only making a great community strong, but growing that community to be even stronger. And a lot of the things that we'll talk about in the future segment as well are going to be kind of tied around that. But that is our mantra. And part of that is bringing in new players and offering new opportunities to do that. What are going to be the first ones that we'll see for the CIS and for the Republic? There's going to be a 501st one, and there's going to be a droid invasion force that will be coming out as well, and those will also feature brand new command cards that are specific to those forces. We're really excited by this opportunity. It lets us really dive into the thematics and the narrative and do some really fun stuff that allows players to construct forces that are part of the wildest dreams and the stories that they want to tell. So,
but we did get ahead of ourselves a little bit here.
A little bit. We do have to talk. We have to go back to the Mercenaries because there's a couple of characters that, importantly,
are receiving some updates. So there are some notorious mercenaries, perhaps. Notorious? Famous? Depends on who you talk to. But we will be giving some upgraded stat cards with some tweaks where necessary, and utilizing this new mercenary rule set for Boba Fett, Cad Bane, and Bosk. We'll all be getting new stat cards alongside this release. So that's exciting to me because I think those characters are awesome. Cad Bane being my personal favorite.
And of course, they will be mercenaries, so they will function slightly differently in terms of where they can be taken, all of that good stuff. So it was very cool to be able to go back and kind of, with this new mechanic, better represent the bounty hunter characters that were already in the game. And so there will be a card pack that comes along with the Shadow Collective, which will have a bunch of new upgrades in it and stuff, similar to the first card pack. That will include the reprinted new versions of these mercenaries. So if you're wondering how can I get a hold of them in print, that's going to be the way. Otherwise, just like many of the errata cards in the past, they will go into the ROG and update documents, so you can just have them available there as well. But that is something that I was really excited by the possibility of as we kind of like dove into this stuff. And yeah, so I think now we're ready to go into points and balance updates.
Yeah, so we've been playtesting a whole bunch of points and balance updates. You saw a couple of those things yesterday in the battle report, the game, whatever, that happened. And we have some Vader changes. There are more erratas and updates and stuff that are coming. I do want to kind of give the disclaimer, I guess, that as we move forward and as we progress through things, errata is not the sort of standard plan for stuff. Errata is something that we always try to do very, very sparingly and only use it when we absolutely need to, especially when it comes to, say, balance concerns or things like that. If a rule is just wrong on a card, we will, of course, errata it to fix the rule and update the wording on it. But when it comes to balance concerns, our goal isn't just to go through and redo everything every 6 months or something. That's absolutely not something that we're interested in doing. So just giving that as a clarification out there. But there are some erratas coming that will change the functionality of some units. We talked a lot about Vader yesterday, gaining compel core units, as well as a command slot. There are some other changes that are coming to certain units. And we focused a lot of this errata and points update on both the Imperial and the Rebel factions, because they're the oldest, they needed some of the most love. So we went through and reevaluated a lot of things in those two factions. Now, that doesn't mean that we didn't hit some things in both CIS and Galactic Republic that needed toning up or down. So there's a lot of stuff coming. I see chat is asking for a lot of confirmation of timelines. I mean, in a perfect world, these would be coming up very soon. We do not live in a perfect world, however. So the goal is to get them done when they're done, right? We don't want to rush this stuff. We don't want to have errors in the documents and things like that. So the hope is maybe this month, maybe next month, but I'm not really willing to commit to a specific time at this point for when those things are going to be coming out. We do have some core rules stuff that we're adjusting. We're streamlining some things. And when I say streamlining, let me be clear. We're clarifying. We're not like overhauling a whole bunch of stuff in the core rules. So don't don't get too excited out there. There is one big rule change that I wanted to briefly mention that we are playtesting and are very, very happy with so far, which is how the combat cards system works. And we are going to be changing to a system where you reveal all 12 of the combat cards, so all 4 for each of the 3 types. And then players will continue on picking as normal. And that has been really, really great in playtest because it has created a lot more situations where, honestly, the game just feels more balanced and more open.
It's much more difficult to force important issues when you have 4 randomized instead of 3, which is a really big one.
Yeah, so that has been going very, very, very well, and I'm very excited about that one personally. Because if you know me and my likes, I love that like pre-game stuff and like the planning and all that kind of thing, and like picking your scenarios. So that's a big one for me personally. I like that stuff a lot.
Okay, shall we jump into organized play and discuss a little bit about that?
Let's party.
Okay, so let's get the first big thing out of the way. We're fully committed to holding Worlds and high-level competitive play. We discussed that when we first took over the merger. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, with shipping and all of our timelines in terms of when products are going to come out, COVID is still a thing. You know, we thought vaccines were going to be the thing. We had a brief moment in July where it seemed like the world might get back to normal, but unfortunately, that just has not been the case. And the top priority for us always, always, always is the health and safety for our great community. These games are amazing, and being together is one of our favorite things in the world, but it's not worth anybody getting sick and potentially even worse things happening. And it's very difficult for us to be able to plan. International travel is a big part of these events, all that stuff. So exactly like we said in the X-Wing panel, we're still committed to doing it. Any invites from previous 2019 qualifiers, 2020 qualifiers, if anything happened during that, we of course will honor when we're set up, and we'll continue to keep in the loop as we figure out more of this stuff. But always our concern is going to be for the health and safety of you all out there. That said, we are excited to kind of dive back into more organized play at the store level. We are going to be at Adepticon and holding both narrative and some competitive play options there. We're working very closely with Adepticon and our team that's going to be going out there. So we will hopefully have more information as we get closer to that. Again, it's a very evolving situation, so we're doing our best to try to figure everything out. And we are totally ready for something to just take a hard left and throw us out of the car. And then we'll run after it and catch back up and jump back in and grab that wheel. So with all that said, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you can look forward to. The competitive side, obviously very important. One of the things that we, again, are kind of focusing on and looking at is how do we bring more interesting and unique game experiences to Legion, not only to provide refresh opportunities, but also extra value to collections. The base game is obviously super important to everything that is Legion. It is always going to be the standard way to play. But the amazing thing is like you can fall in love with a game again just by a simple twist or some like new take on how to approach and play the game from a list building perspective, from a scenario perspective, things like that. So we have 2 new organized play kits that we're going to be launching sometime next year. The first one is called Unnatural Resources. In this, you're going to get a full new scenario with punch and all that stuff that's going to be yours to keep. So you can play the mission later on with your friends or bring it back out when you want a slightly different experience. Unlike a standard game, you don't use the battle cards to form the scenario. Instead, the scenario is all laid out for you. This one is super fun because there's a roaming Dianoga that terrorizes the battlefield. And so you have to basically secure these resource objectives. And as you're trying to do so, the Dianoga runs around and wreaks havoc. So it becomes very difficult to plan. It's a bit of pandemonium, but it's very fun. There's a chaotic element to it that just makes everything pretty exciting. And then the other one is going to be a support for skirmish play. This is probably one of my favorite ones. It was designed by Michael Plummer. I've never heard more yelling and whooping and hollering before in anything that I've done in the office.
That says a lot.
I know.
That says a lot.
We yell
a lot.
We yell a lot. It is called Dynamic Exit. It's an asymmetric heist scenario, and I think this is why the yelling starts to happen. Where effectively one player is trying to steal goods and the other player is trying to stop them from stealing said goods. So it is just that moment that we see in almost every Star Wars movie where the heroes, quote unquote, are trying to make their escape with their illicit goods, and the bad guys are trying to stop them. And it's wild. It's very different, super fun, and really promotes some very different list construction depending on which side you're playing. So again, those are going to be hitting stores as in-store play. We're really excited to be able to offer a new kind of venue in addition to the standard competitive and tournament level stuff, which we'll continue to support as well. But providing more opportunities, more value to everyone's collections. You know, we pour our heart and souls into painting our armies and putting together things, and sometimes your favorite unit isn't the most efficient unit, but it can be the most efficient unit in various modes of play, and that's one of the things that really inspires and drives us forward, because these games are so much more than just what comes out of the core box, and we really want to honor and value that with everything that we do.
Yeah, and moving on from that one, we talked about Vader Down in last Ministravaganza, and that is still something that we are doing. We are working on systems to be able to play highly narrative, highly, I'm going to say imbalanced, and I don't mean imbalanced as in like unfair. I mean imbalanced as in very different styles of armies, where you could play just Vader against a full or maybe even multiple full armies is kind of how we're leaning at the moment. And that shouldn't be too far away. So keep an eye out for that one.
Okay, and with that, I think we're ready to go into the future.
The future.
So everything we're going to talk about here, to give my standard disclaimer, the timelines that we work on, and we talk about this a lot through all of our Ministravaganzas, our streams, everything, because we want to be as transparent as possible and help everyone kind of understand the whole process, because there's an amazing magic behind everything, and that's why we love having Preston and Marco here to be able to give us insight on how these amazing games come together. But you're talking about 18 to 24 months in most cases, and that's not counting a global pandemic, which has really messed with a lot of things. So, you know, we felt it was really important at this point to kind of show a glimpse beyond what we would normally feel comfortable showing because of our long timelines. So that everyone can get an idea of like what the vision is, where we're going, to get excited about things, but understand that these things are, you know, a ways away. Late next year to 2023 we're talking about in general for kind of where we're going. And so again, that's my disclaimer. We're super excited to share this stuff, and it's really important that you know when I say these things to you, we're literally working on this stuff right now. And it's hard for me to talk about these things because normally it's been drilled into you to never say anything about what you're working on right now.
Oh yeah.
We talk about things that we worked on 1.5 to 2 years ago. So if I get a little nervous or we stumble a bit here, just know that is why. We're breaking all the rules right now.
Blink
Breaking
twice.
all the conditioning.
So the first thing that we wanted to talk about was, so we showed the Mercenaries. This opened up a really cool opportunity. And one of the big things that I know everyone's been chomping at the bit to see more of in the Legion game has been content from the Mandalorian. Well, I'm very happy to say that you can expect that content to be coming. It does utilize similar mechanics to the Mercenary stuff. Pagani is actually in playtest with many of it right now. We're going to see the Mandalorian and the Child. We're going to see IG-11. We're going to see some other stuff that's coming as well. Moff Gideon, Dark Troopers, all of those things are in various stages of process. So you can already see I'm like getting super nervous right now. I'm like, I'm waiting for Simone to come across the table.
Like part of me is like, oh, can we say that?
This is kind of killing me here. But I did get approval, so I can't necessarily get in trouble. Now, so all of this stuff is in the works. We're hoping for all of that stuff to hit store shelves and be released sometime late next year, so probably Q4. Most of this stuff is really all about, you're going to see, and we do have something that Marco and Preston are going to get to talk about here in a second, because they've been very quiet. That
We've been waiting.
These are things that we've moved beyond the transition. And so right now, even though I'm starting to go into a cold flop sweat, we're gonna show the very first fully designed and sculpted and developed character for Legion, which is from the Mandalorian. And Marco, do you want to? Preston, Marco,
yes.
do you want to say it together, like count down?
Countdown. Well, before that.
Oh, before that. What do we have before
we
that?
We do have what we know can come to love is Swoop Bikes.
Oh, that's true. Swoop Bikes. We forgot all about Swoop Bikes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Swoop Bikes, sir.
I want to talk about these.
Exactly. These are my favorite because ever since the original trilogy, these bikes are just real rad. Like you want to play with these, you want to see these on a table. And Preston, please expand on this because I'm too excited.
So this was really the first big opportunity for us to do character concept art, and we pulled from all different parts of Star Wars, but well, the cool thing is the head options. Really cool. We got a Twi'lek, probably a human. There's a helmet on, but that bottom right character is actually from a piece of concept art from, I believe, from episode 1. Mm-hmm. I think, but it was a character that was driving on a swoop bike. So we're pulling from pretty deep cut Star Wars stuff. We were looking at some pretty fun stuff for this, but the swoop bike composition, the characters, we worked on concepting all of those and pulling from different areas.
Yeah, there's a lot of little details here and there that you could pick apart on these miniatures, and that do come from film and also from animated features and what you guys design, and also our terrain specialist, sculptor, engineer, Bexley, Jeff Anderjack, who's amazing. He does a lot of the vehicle work, especially for Legion, and his mind, how it works and how to make these, design these, and then also make them be easy to customize and build together through his genius design process in his head is incredible. And it's a joy to see his excitement in it. And also when we actually do get the plastics in our hands and put them together, to see the result of his hard work and just how well thought out everything is from the ground up is incredible. And then the next piece is the exciting one.
That's true.
The swoop bikes were exciting. All right.
The swoop bikes were very exciting. Those, just to be clear, those were started a bit before the transition. We did probably the majority of the work on them, and all of the development work was kind of done under that Mercenary guise. But this from start to finish
is Boba Fett from the Mandalorian series.
So this is a brand new version of Boba Fett, as Marcus said, from the Mandalorian series. Going to be part of all of this stuff.
New stack cards, new everything.
New everything. Faction-wise, I can pretty much guarantee you that he's going to go into Rebels. I'll say that. Why not? But yeah, just an amazing job. Preston, I know you did the posing for this, I believe, and worked on some of the art.
I helped anyway.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that. What was kind of the inspiration behind where we went and all of that stuff?
Well, the process of posing, it starts with looking at scenes from your source. So we were looking at a lot of scenes from The Mandalorian, what Boba Fett does in that, what his actions are. We went through a number of pistol poses. He has a really exaggerated, interesting pistol pose, and but I think one of the interesting things about this is the use of the gaffi stick, and I think there's a few iconic things about Boba Fett. Primarily how he looks. His outfit's really cool and iconic, but in The Mandalorian, he's using the gaffi stick, which is sort of a unique part of that version of him. So representing that makes this stand out from other versions of Boba Fett, and it was a cool solution to how do we make this feel like this is the Mandalorian version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I remember we were going frame by frame in that scene of him beating up those stormtroopers, and it's like that. He's going to be doing this pose and doing this exactly, and he does have another head option without his helmet, so that is also the highlight too. That you get to see the more wise Boba Fett.
So again, really excited and totally terrified of sharing this really behind-the-scenes look with you all, because it is absolutely against protocol.
I look forward to the grilling next week.
I know, it's going to be great. And even beyond that, so we talked a little bit about battle forces, our goal to bring more entry points into the game. Of course, there's a really big thing that's happening in 2023, which is the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. And so, Pagani?
Well, so we're definitely looking at more content involving Return of the Jedi.
I think you're just supposed to say one word. Just say it.
I think it's 2 words, right?
Is it?
Ewoks confirmed?
Oh, it is 2 words, yeah. Yeah.
I think it was Ewoks confirmed, right?
He just wanted you to say Ewoks.
Best Legion unit confirmed.
Yeah. So we're really looking forward. We're working right now on all of that stuff. We have some really amazing content. And we're going to be building out things from the Clone Wars, Rebels, and several other media outlets from Star Wars. So we have a lot of really cool stuff coming, and we're right in the midst of that. The mercenary mechanics that are being launched with Shadow Collective have become really a door opener to explore some of the different characters in a new way that might not have worked without the mercenary tag. And of course, we have so many characters yet to go, so many units that we haven't seen yet. I promise you, everyone's favorite character that has been screamed about in this thing. Absolutely, we're right there. So again, timelines are long, but we have tons of ideas and thoughts. We want to dive into campaign products so that players can better tell their stories and rules. We're looking forward to advancing more scenario play and things like that. So we have a whole list of things that we're very excited to dive into. Characters and units, and the Star Wars galaxy is vast and huge, and I think the Legion has really only barely tapped the surface of what's possible, and we just can't wait to explore all of it and more with you and all the new players that we hope to bring in. So to everyone out there, know that we're excited for the future. Hopefully this small glimpse into everything that I should never say in front of a camera has made you excited too. And we're chomping at the bit to let you all see the fruits of this labor and to continue on this amazing journey together in a galaxy far, far away. With that, I will turn it over to the rest of my fellow and amazing crewmates and say any last words before we call this day 3 start a close.
I would never joke about Ewoks. Never.
Smart.
Have you seen those things? They're horrifying.
Marco?
I'm just excited for what's going to come, given that you spoil little things that I'm scared of now, but it is, like you said, just the tip of the iceberg, because there's so much more coming.
I'm disappointed that we didn't show Ewoks. I just wanted to show everything. I'm so excited about Ewoks, you have no idea.
Next time,
Preston did literally just wrap all the poses on them, and they're phenomenal.
I am excited, so excited.
Like after the Wookiee Bombardier and the Ornithopter, Ewoks are my favorite thing in Legion, so I'm super excited for that to come out.
I'll print you out like a little nice mound of Ewoks for you, Preston. So.
Yeah.
We're getting this from Tony right now.
He's telling us to just shut up. He's like,
Tony,
guys.
I've got 20 more minutes left. Well, that's not true. I have like 15 more minutes left if I want to. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Ahsoka confirmed. We will see you on the next one. Please stay with us for an amazing content of day 3.